What's going on, you guys? It's the Honda Baron here today, and coming at you with another video. Today I want to talk about motorcycle ownership, specifically the costs of motorcycle ownership, what it costs to run a bike, and what you can expect to spend, regularly, annually, and whether or not it's cheaper or more expensive to own a bike than it is to own a car. I'm sure some of you guys have your own opinions on that. I would love to hear your thoughts before the video starts down in the comments below. But that's what we're going to talk about today. And now my experiences are based on this bike, my 2014 Honda CB500X and my previous CBR 300R. So expenses aren't as high for these bikes as say a sport bike or something bigger. And as for the cars I've driven, like a Golf, TDI Golf wagon, an older Volvo, and a Mazda 3. So again, not the most expensive cars, but that's what I'll be comparing the cost with. And yeah, I ended up in the cemetery. I don't know why, but it seemed like a fitting place to stop and get the GoPro going. But yeah, let's hop on the bike and dive into this video. And we are off. So, to get started, I personally don't think that owning a motorcycle is cheap. I mean, it's not expensive, but it's definitely not an inexpensive or cheap hobby. It can be really expensive, or it can be quite reasonable, depending on who you are and kind of what your riding preferences are like. For me, I'm okay with what I spend to own and maintain this bike, but for some people it might be a lot, and for others it might not be a lot at all. So when it comes to owning a motorcycle, the first thing you're looking at is cost. And now picking up a used bike is easy, and that's actually quite reasonable. I mean, there's tons of used bikes on the market for great prices. I mean, you can go out today here in Hamilton even and find a bike that you could ride tomorrow for under $2,000 if you were so inclined, and even less if your mechanical skills are any good. I might be stuck waiting here for a minute, so instead of rambling on, I will catch up with you guys once I'm in traffic and the scenery starts changing. Cars, no cars, I'm going! Woo! Baby! Alright, so now that we're moving a bit, cost of ownership. So buying the first bike, you can spend anywhere between, say, $2,000, even less, up to $10,000 or more. That's going to be your first upfront cost. And then there's the motorcycle safety course, which here in Ontario they're like $300 or $400. And now you don't have to do the motorcycle safety course, but I don't actually know how you would get a bike or how you'd get your M1 without doing the motorcycle safety course. So that's like $300 or $400, and then you've got to get your gear. And for entry-level gear, say boots, gloves, jacket, and helmet, you are looking at spending around $1,000. It could be less, could be a lot more. It could be a little bit less, but it's like $200 or $300 for the jacket, and that's a budget jacket. $200 or $300 for boots, $200 or $300 for helmet. You're at $1,000, $100 for gloves. You don't have to wear any of this gear except for the helmet. I would recommend wearing safety gear, of course. So best case scenario, before even getting on the bike, after buying the bike, after doing the course, and after buying gear, you're looking at maybe, let's say, $3,500 to $5,000 Canadian at the low end, up to $10,000 plus at the high end, depending on the vehicle or the motorcycle and gear you're buying. And now that's just to get started. That's just to get to the it's just to get to the base. After that, there is insurance. So insurance is going to be your next cost. You're going to start calling places once you get a bike. And for insurance, like I said, I'm paying $60 a month if you're a brand new rider here in Ontario. And I'm sure other places in North America, you're going to be spending at least $60, maybe up to $100 a month. So let's call it an even 100 for a new rider. And That's $1,200 a year on top of like the $3,500 to $10,000 that you are already spending just to get riding. So and that's just to get the bike started and out your driveway legally. And now once you have all that, I mean, you're ready to ride. After you start riding, now you've got another set of expenses. So you've got gas that you have to pay for. I mean, that's normal whether you drive a car or a motorcycle. You'll be paying for gas and maintenance. So maintenance, both preventative and ongoing, and scheduled maintenance it's going to be the next biggest cost of owning your motorcycle. So things like cleaning and lubing your chain every few hundred kilometers. Each time you spray the lube on the chain, like, that's costing you money for whatever the amount you use, or using cleaning supplies to clean the bike, to clean the chain. Anytime you do oil changes, like, you're looking at $20 for an oil filter, and you're looking at, say, anywhere from $20 to $50 for oil just on each oil change. And now the oil change intervals are a lot higher, I think, for bikes than they are for cars. You could really stretch it out on a car. At least in my experience, you can. But if you're using a bike, like, you're going to be changing the oil like at least every, say, 6 to 12,000 kilometers, depending on your riding style and depending on the bike you're using. And this also assumes you're following the scheduled maintenance in the owner's manual. So every owner's manual comes with like a list of the scheduled maintenance you need to do, as well as how long the intervals are between this maintenance time frame. So when you first get it, I think a new bike has like a 600 or 1,000 kilometer is going to be the first scheduled maintenance, and then maybe 6,000 kilometers, and then 12, and then 24. It really depends. Actually, it's actually super bike specific. But each time you hit one of those maintenance time frames on the schedule, like, that's going to cost you money. And so if you can't do your own oil changes, if you can't clean and adjust your chain, you can't do all that on your own, you're going to be heading to the mechanic and spending a lot of money there. And so for things like tire changes, again, you're changing the tires on your motorcycle way more than you're changing them on your car. So on my cars, like, it's easy to get, say, 60, 80,000, 100,000 kilometers from a pair of good tires in the car, especially if you've got like both sets, winter and summer, depending on how you drive. With the bike, you're looking at, say, 10 to 20,000 kilometers before you need to switch it out, depending on the bike you're riding. With like heavier sport bikes requiring changes like way more often than mine. I like 15 on the back right now, or 15 on both right now. So that's pretty good. I'd probably consider changing the back tire at the end of the season when I get to maybe, I don't know, 20,000 kilometers or so. The front tire on the other bike, I had the stock front tire up to 30,000, and it was fine. But again, these are lighter bikes. They're cheaper to maintain. It's all going to be bike specific. And yeah, so there's tons of consumables, basic, wear and tear items for owning your motorcycle that you're not going to get if you are mostly driving a car. At least you're not going to have these items come up for maintenance as often. So yeah, of course, every car also has their own maintenance schedule that it's obviously a good idea to follow, but the intervals are a bit longer. And cars are a little bit easier to work on, I think, for some people, especially if you want to do your own wrenching. There's tons of YouTube videos for most cars, at least for most common cars, on getting everything done so you're not stuck paying for a mechanic. Tires last forever, the oil change intervals are longer, there's a lot more, I would say, regularly used consumables, or I guess wear and tear items on a motorcycle. And now here in Ontario, the other big expense when it comes to comparing cars and motorcycles is the insurance. So in Ontario, I would actually pay less for the motorcycle insurance than I do for car insurance, and that's with like a perfectly clean driving record, which is like kind of surprising if you think about it. So I have a clean driving record, and I'm paying like $150 a month for a Golf TDI wagon, 2012. So like obviously nothing fancy. That's double what I pay for this, right? And I'm actually not sure why. I'm not sure why that is. Now that I'm thinking about it, why my car insurance would be more expensive. I guess because I would cause a lot more damage if I get into an accident with a car. Like if you hit somebody in a car, or if I run into, say, like one of these buildings here in a car, like you're gonna cause a lot more damage than if the motorcycle is just mostly damage to me. And it's a lot easier to find people that can like work on cars. Like your buddy can probably, like a lot of guys have friends that can work on cars. It's easier to do. It's not as, like, the spaces aren't as tight. And even me, like, I like to do a lot of my own work on the bike, but it's definitely easier to do on a car. It's just bigger components, like easier to handle everything. And you know, all this has an impact on how much you're spending to ride. And another big deal, like depending on where you live, is like some places you're not going to be able to ride all year. You know, here, especially here in Southern Ontario, we're about it. Like we're at the end of September right now, and a lot of people are already thinking about putting their bikes away, and they may have already put their bikes away for the season. And like that's it, right? They're not going to be busting their bikes out again until like the spring, like April or May. I mean, some people won't even get back on their bikes until like May 24, and that's like, what's your riding season? 4 or 5 months? That's not really long enough at all. And every month that you're not riding, you're still paying for insurance. Your bike is still depreciating as it sits in the garage. You're always constantly having to you know, pay to maintain the bike that you're not riding. And yeah, I get it, it's cold, but you know, these are all things you need to consider if you're wanting to get a bike, I say, like a more of a toy compared to something you're going to use regularly, like throughout the year for commuting. And now, me personally, I have a lot of fun riding all year round. I love the cool weather, so it's not going to it's not as big of a deal for me to pay insurance through the winter. Now there is like a few months where there's snow on the ground and you're only going to be riding a few days a month. Yeah, that happens. But the rest of the year, I'm riding. You know, I'm getting full enjoyment out of the bike. Another issue with cars is the upside to bikes is you can get a really good bike for, you know, under 5,000 to 7,000. You can get a really good bike for that. In the car range, the used car range, like in that market here in this area, it's not going to be that great of a car. You're going to have to spend, you know, to upwards of 10,000 plus to get a reliable car that isn't going to cost you a lot on maintenance. And even looking at how far cars go, I mean, it's not uncommon to see cars going, you know, 300, 4,000 kilometers. And now, do bikes go that far? Oh yeah, there's definitely bikes that have got up into the mid, you know, 6 digits. But I just saw this article about a Honda, or was it? Yeah, I think a Honda that someone took 1,000,000 miles. Yeah, 1,000,000 miles. Like I don't think there's bikes that go that far. Maybe like 1 or 2 Harleys, but yeah, they crash. But people just aren't riding them as often. At least not in climates like this. And again, all this is just going to, anytime you don't ride, if you're not riding regularly, if your bike's just a garage queen, it's all just costing you a lot more money than that you're getting, like, for the enjoyment you spend, say, per kilometer, than someone that's riding regularly and just having a blast, you know, following maintenance schedules, but just riding the bike into the ground. You know, that's what these toys, that's what these machines are for, right? They want to be ridden. And now, compared to a car, like overall, I think you might come out slightly cheaper for owning a motorcycle and riding regularly compared to a car. I mean, again, it really depends on like the bike you're riding and the car you're driving. For me personally, it's probably pretty close to equal, like all things considered, with my Honda here and say like my Mazda or my Golf TDI. It's they're gonna probably, in my opinion, come pretty close over the cost, like over the term of ownership. The cost of ownership is not going to be like, it's not going to be something drastic like 50%, right? It's going to be probably a lot closer when it comes to the differences between the two. But that all goes to say, are you ever going to have as much fun in your Golf TDI wagon or your Honda Civic, you know, as you are on a motorcycle? No. I mean, I used to have a BMW Z4 convertible, and now it's not like the fastest car, it's not the best car, but you're not going to get that like nice fun rips, baby. You just don't get that on a car at all. And yeah, there's some cars that maybe will give you a little tingle down there, but for the most part, it's just a different type of transportation that's not really as fun for me personally, and for a lot of riders. It's just not as fun. It's not the same as being on the bike. You know, you don't get the fresh air, you don't get beautiful views like this. You do, but you're in a box, right? You're behind this glass. It's almost impossible to compare. I mean, I used to be a car guy. I thought I was into cars until I got my first bike, and you know, after that first ride, you hit that throttle, you're thrown back in the seat, and you know, it's a game changer. It's never the same after that. You know, you're hooked. But go ahead, boss. Are you going? Thought I'd be a nice guy. Let this guy go. Oh, use your signal, pal. And you'll always look way cooler on a motorcycle than you will in a car. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love the Honda Odyssey, but but you are going to look infinitely cooler on a motorcycle or scooter. Don't get me wrong, scooters are cool too. Shout out to the scooter riders. You're just gonna look way cooler and just have way more of a blast. Yeah, it sucks getting stuck in the rain. Yeah, it sucks when it's cold, but you know, at the end, what is it all about? The smiles per mile? That's what I'm talking about. That's how I measure my fun. So yeah, basically, I guess I'm trying to say is it comes down to preference. If you can afford to ride both a car and a bike, do it. If you can afford a fun car, you know, a daily driver and a bike, go ahead. If you just want to ride all year, it's all up to you guys, you know. It's kind of like you just gotta decide. It's one's not better than the other. It's all preference. If you're broke, you know, if you're hurting on cash, or if you're broke, if you need the money, then I would recommend sticking with a car, something reliable, easy to maintain. Otherwise, like, these things are a blast. I think he was an electric scooter. Anyways, otherwise, like, bikes are a blast. They're so much fun, and it's totally worth it. Like, in the end, every experience on the bike, whether it's pouring rain, you know, whether you get caught in a snowstorm, everything is just so much fun. You know, even now I'm just riding around doing absolutely nothing, just enjoying the scenery, looking at these beautiful houses here in Burlington, and for no reason. I got nowhere to go. I just wanted to make a video, and that's what I got going on right now. I might make another video right after this. We'll see. But yeah, that's really all I got on. Again, I'm probably rambling on so much about nothing, but if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. As always, don't forget to hit that like button, or thumbs up, you know, hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe, because I will be uploading videos quite regularly. And feel free to leave me a comment about your own thoughts on whether or not it's cheaper or better to ride a bike or drive a car. As always, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And yeah, that's all I got for now, so I'll catch up with you guys later.